A man's inaction is revealing his intention. Ladies, we know that you love him, and we know that you've been waiting for years to get engaged at this point. But we want to give you some tips on what you should be doing, because this episode is really focusing on you.
More than that, the answers to these questions that I'm getting is this giving husband.
What's up, fam? Welcome back to our channel. My name is Tim. This is my beautiful wife, Pauline, and you're tuning in to another episode of the W Podcast, where you get wisdom in the word with the
Wheeler.
Hey, so we are super excited this week. We not only have a topic, but we have a question from someone who watches the podcast. And if they don't know, babe, you can actually send me the question. You can go to our bio or about page and you can learn more about that. But what are we talking about this week?
We're talking about how long is too long to wait for a ring. How long is too long to date before a proposal is happening on the horizon. You know, It's going to be different for everyone, but we are going to answer a question from one of you about it because it's a pretty important question.
Yeah, I think this is something that I could see some women maybe struggling with silently.
Yes.
Even though everybody can see how long you've been dating if they know you. But it may not be something you're comfortable asking your friend about or asking your mom or whoever, just because you may be embarrassed. Or you may just not want to hear their opinion because maybe you already know it. So let's read the question so we can fill everybody else in.
Okay, the question is, me and my boyfriend have been together for almost 4 years this year. I really want him to pop the big question this year, but I'm not so sure that he will. He says he wants to get married, but I'm scared maybe he's too afraid to. Do you guys have any advice on the waiting season? What is too long to wait? Why do men take so long to know if that's what they want?
Wow.
So a lot of different pieces to this question.
A lot of different questions, and we'll unpack it all, but we just got to be careful just off the bat. Why do men, like whenever we're generalizing, that's dangerous, like on any side, not just this topic, but whether it's all women are like this or all men do this, that's just not really the case. But I do want to say thank you for your question, whoever sent this. We really do appreciate it and hope to add value to you, and we feel your situation. Like I don't want to say we feel your pain because it's not true, but we like are empathizing with you being in a situation like, it sounds like you love this man, sounds like you want to get married to them, but it's unclear if he does. And it's not really clear if you have had a conversation yet. And we'll unpack all of that. But I wanted to touch first, babe, like, why do some men seem to wait too long? Like, why are some men afraid? Well, we'll get into that later in the podcast. But why are some men, like, afraid? Do you have any thoughts first before I share?
Yeah, I mean, it would be obviously valuable for you because I know we have different perspectives on different things like men and women when it comes to gender stuff, but I definitely think men all of us, every single person experiences fear and experiences, that kind of expresses itself in different ways, and I definitely think each gender has its own kind of maybe common patterns of expressing that fear, and God often talks about, telling us not to fear, not to make decisions according to fear in the Bible, and I think a lot of that honestly manifests in men of like with marriage, because if we look at data, which I don't have numbers up for you guys right now, but just thinking about how many men, get married versus women, and like oftentimes men have, they have the upper hand or they have the choice of like, they're the ones proposing, they're the ones leading. So why does it seem like men want to get married less than women do? Even though we talked about this last week or the week before, how women are actually the ones who are filing for divorce more. So maybe they're the ones who actually don't want to be married as much as guys do.
Well, there's a lot of stats talking about how the people who have the least life expectancy are women in unhappy marriages. Oh yes, we did. Yeah, we watched this documentary last week actually called Fair Play, if anyone's ever heard of it. That's more about like invisible within marriage, but anyway, they did talk about that, and yeah, I think it's a lot of different things, especially if you are like us and you are Black, African American. There isn't a lot of great examples in our culture of marriage, and let alone marriage, but like
black men in general, and like specifically black husbands, black fathers. So that kind of whole culture is very like murky waters, very confusing for a man. Like I can very much see that being the case. And just like, you know, and we've been talking about this, like kind of a lack of mentorship in the church and like things like that. Like a lot of guys like dating girls but not doing it with direction, not knowing, well, how long should I be dating her? How long, you know, how do I know that if I want to get married or propose to her versus any other girl out there?
Yeah. And so there's 3 fears that we'll share, but obviously there's a lot more. You can't sum up every man's fear of not getting married or wanting to get married, but 3 main ones that we see a common theme in is, one is the fear of failing in marriage, and this may be because they've never seen a healthy marriage before. So maybe they're like, my dad didn't have a successful marriage, my granddad didn't have a successful marriage, my uncle didn't have he's never seen somebody in his family successfully move through a marriage and have a lasting one. So maybe that can scare them. Or maybe they aren't sure if they have what it takes. Maybe there's some trauma in their past, in their heart, in their life, and they're like, I don't know if I want to put myself through that. Or maybe they just forget marriage, but just in relationships in general, whenever relationships start to get deeper for them, maybe they start to retreat and start to get scared of growing closer to somebody because they're scared of that rejection, potentially.
Self-sabotaging, for sure. There's a lot. The guys and girls do that, but I definitely think, too, it's worth mentioning, like, because you may be sitting here, for the person who asked this question, of course, you're the girlfriend, but I know that you're not the only one in this situation. But for us women, sometimes you can get frustrated because it's like, okay, even if you didn't grow up with a healthy man in your life, you've seen it in my dad and in my brothers and our past and your pastor and like other people that are around, and like, yes, those are really good things to have, but it's really different for a guy, especially if their own father was not there for them and was not a good example. Because like for you as a woman, imagine growing up without ever seeing a healthy example of a woman at all. And like some of you, that is your case, and you have that's your experience. But it's much easier for us to find examples of healthy women, even if you're piecemealing different women together to kind of make up your idea of like who you want to be. But like imagine not knowing what it's like to be a mom, or not, like, and that's even inundated in us within culture. Like we're given baby dolls when we're little girls, and like, you know, that's how we play, that's how we connect, by nurturing and taking care of each other. Guys are not that way, so a lot of times they're like really growing up and, you know, being matured and grown by really terrible examples, and they're like, I know I don't want to be that, but what I do know, it's not the same as seeing it on TV versus being able to like pick up the phone and call somebody and say like, okay, I know that if I ever get into a jam or I don't know what to do, I can call someone. Like that's just so valuable that I got a lot of guys really yearn for and want and don't have, and that's a lot of reasons why like they're insecure about moving towards marriage. Yeah,
another thing can be financial insecurity. And by no means are we saying any of these necessarily are excuses why a man shouldn't propose. We're just trying to give you some context. And financial insecurity, that could be maybe they don't feel they make enough money to successfully be a provider for a family. And maybe you're like, well, that's so like outdated. Like, I work too, like I can bring money. But for some men, that's still very much a thing of like they want to be able to provide fully, and whatever you bring in is extra. Or maybe it's financial insecurity. They've seen what happens when a man gets married but things don't work out and then the woman takes half. Like who knows? There could be a lot of different reasons. I do think sometimes this point is sometimes it can be a scapegoat of like,
because it's never enough, really.
Well, it's like, well, I just want to be in a better place financially, and it's like, actually, you're in a decent place. You definitely could get married,
right?
But you are just using it as an excuse to not have to take that step forward,
right?
And then as a Christian, like if you're watching this channel and you're somebody who is a Christian and you're trying to honor God, we have to remember the Bible is very clear that it's impossible to please God without faith. And I think sometimes when it comes to marriage, we want to be so practical. And yes, obviously you should be practical. Yes, obviously you should be responsible and make sure you can provide for your family. But there's a difference between being able to provide for your family and being able to have 6 figures saved in your bank account, like so that you can feel like you're financially prepared. It's just not the same thing. And I think sometimes we take the faith aspect out of our love life, and it's like, Lord, do you want me to be married right now? We don't even ask that question because it's like, well, of course God wouldn't want me to be married. My finances aren't where he wants them to be. And God doesn't operate how we do. So sometimes we may need to step out of that natural realm and step into the faith realm. It's time for us to get married according to the Lord's will. And the last thing is fear of losing freedom. So maybe they like being single. Maybe they like going where they want to go, doing what they want to do.
Answer to somebody.
Yeah, that's a very real thing. So one thing that is underrated. Some men are, even if you're not having sex, because I feel like this point that I'm about to say, a lot of times it's used as, this is why you shouldn't have sex with them. But this can happen even without sex.
Oh, yeah.
Because some men are emotionally benefiting from the relationship without making a covenant into marriage. And honestly, this could even happen with just guy and girl platonic friendships.
Yeah, just having somebody in your phone.
Yeah, just having somebody in your phone, opposite sex, somebody who's going to listen to you and care about your emotions and your feelings, because maybe your boyfriends, guy friends don't. So that is just something to watch out for. Like if you're dating somebody or engaged to somebody or even just friends with somebody and you feel like the lines, the boundaries are getting too blurry in that relationship without clear direction of, hey, I want to be with you for the rest of my life. You know, I'm on one knee.
Right.
That could be one of the reasons why, is because they don't really want to make that commitment, but they do love the emotional security they have from being able to talk to you.
And you'll even see that with, like, when you try to ask for clarity, certain things, even like, you know, like you said at the beginning of the relationship, like, hey, where's this going? Like, are you actually going to ever take me out on a real date? Stuff like that. And then he's like, oh, you know, I love spending time with you. Oh, you know, I love talking to you. And it's like, I didn't ask you if you love talking to me. I asked if you're going to take me out on a date. I asked if you're going to make this official. You know, when you're trying to ask for clarifying questions and he keeps going back to, oh, what you're offering him emotionally, which, like, that is very valuable. And, like, that is, you know, a lot of reasons why a lot of men love women. I think, well, all healthy men love what women offer emotionally, the support, the encouragement, the companionship, all of those things. You know, of course you're made for that. Like, of course you're good at that. But in exchange, he needs to offer some type of security. And that's what we talk about, that, you know, excuse me, as one of women's top needs is security. And it's not always financial, but a lot of times it is the security of a relationship, of knowing, like, I'm gonna be here for you, I've got your back, I'm gonna, you know, come to you when you need me, when you want me, all of those things. And that's what a lot of you women are looking for. You're not always looking for a sugar daddy or someone to take care of you. You're like, I want to know that you're gonna be here, and if he's not gonna give you that vision and that commitment when you ask for it, that's pretty much answering the question for you.
Yeah. Now, ladies, we know that you love him, and we know that you've been waiting for years to get engaged at this point. But we want to give you some tips on what you should be doing, because this episode is really focusing on you. Like, we're going to talk about the man and the psyche of that, but we got to focus on you and what you can do, because I think, like Pauline kind of touched on a little bit, it can feel as a woman like you have no control in this situation. And even your question, the way you wrote it, it kind of felt like you may feel a little helpless in this situation, but you actually have a lot of control. But you have to remember this: fear is not a good enough reason to stall forever. So whether that's the man who's stalling to propose, or it's the women or the woman who is stalling to end the relationship, you know it's not going anywhere. You know he's not going to propose
in a certain amount of time,
but you're afraid to end the relationship for two of these reasons. The first one is you're afraid of starting over. Well, let's just be honest. Like, you're wondering, will I find somebody else?
Yeah, the ratio.
I heard the dating pool has been peed in. I heard the dating pool isn't good. Like, I ain't really trying to be out here, especially if you've been in a relationship like this woman who's been dating for 4 years, that can feel like a long time in the dating phase.
Pre-COVID.
That can feel like a long time.
Different.
Yeah, we've talked to people who are single who are like, yo, dating in the 2020s is not like dating in the 2010s, like or dating in any other time in history. It just is different, and you may not want to go back into that. But that's really not a good enough reason to stay with somebody who's clearly showing they're not willing to make that commitment to you. So the second thing is fear of other people being right that the relationship won't work.
Oh my gosh, yeah. This is real.
Fear of other people being right that the relationship won't work. So this is the pride part of us.
Pride comes before, what is it not? It doesn't, the verse is not pride comes before the fall. It's haughtiness comes before the fall.
People misconstrue it all the time.
Right.
Pride comes before destruction.
Which is even worse than a fall.
Haughtiness comes before the fall.
Yes.
Anyway, this is something that I personally struggle with in the relationship I had when I was in high school and college. And it just was really annoying to me that people were like, oh, y'all not going to make it. Y'all young. Like, why are you even going with dating this person? Like, you can go to college. You going to want to experience stuff. And it was just like, bruh.
Don't put that on me. I'm different.
Yeah. Because it ain't work for you don't mean it won't work for me. Like, that's the energy I was on. I don't know if you've ever been in that situation where you've been dating somebody and everybody's telling you for whatever reason that it's not going to work. Whether it's just y'all chemistry, whether it's your attitudes.
Still dating. Oh, okay. You still with him?
Yeah, so it's just really important. And I'm not saying the person who asked this question feels this way, but somebody watching this may feel this. You need to make sure that you're not staying in a toxic relationship, staying in a relationship that's not fruitful, staying in a relationship that's not God's will, simply because you want to prove to other people that it can work. That is not best for you.
Yeah.
It's not good for you. And what helped me, because I think sometimes people just say stuff like that, like, don't do this, but they don't tell you how.
Right.
One of the things that helped me was focusing on something bigger than not having the relationship work out. And for me, that was obedience to God. Mm-hmm. I knew that I needed to end that relationship for myself because I had ended up getting saved, recommitting my life, or just committing my life to Jesus for the first time. And I knew that was a step that he wanted me to make so I could focus on him. What is it for you?
Yeah, what's the bigger picture?
Is God calling you to obedience? Has he been telling you? I'm sure there's somebody watching this. God's been telling you, you need to end this relationship. This is not what I have for you.
Yeah.
Or it may just be your time. Like, you're not going to get these years of your life back.
Truly.
There's nothing more sad than somebody who goes through this whole process of dating somebody for years only to realize in the end it's not going to work. And then they look back with regret. We all know somebody who's like,
we all do.
I wish I didn't give the best years of my life. Or I wish I didn't give, some people say that, depending on how old they are. But they're like, I wish I didn't give these 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years to this
10,
person.
20 years, Jesus help. Those common law marriages. It's so real, too.
Yeah, so don't let those two things hold you back from making a decision you know. A lot of times we know what to do. Yeah. We know what's right, but emotionally, we're not ready to do it.
I was just thinking that, like, some people, again, the question was completely anonymous, so we have no idea who even submitted it. But because this is such a common situation, and I don't know if I know it happens in every community, and maybe I just feel like it happens a lot in the Black community because I'm Black, but sometimes you ask questions like this because you need someone to give you permission to say, like, it's okay to walk away, like, it's okay to choose yourself, and it's okay to bet on yourself and to bet on God. Not that those are always the same thing, because they're not, but it's okay to walk away from what was and, like, go on to something new, because a lot of times that's what the Lord is doing. And it's like so frustrating. I feel like in movies and media you see these, like, stories of, like, oh, people who were together for 6 years and the guy's like, oh, marriage was never my thing, and then, like, he breaks up with the girl, and then, like, 6 months later he's married to somebody else, and the girl's like, what the heck, like, I thought you didn't like marriage. And it's like, well, what if the reverse is happening for you, where it's like, all right, you've told me this for so many years that you're thinking about it, that you love me and you enjoy our relationship, you don't want to mess anything up, you're still figuring things out, and here I am, I looked up and it's been 4 years, and it's like, your actions speak louder than words, and like knowing how men are, and like when they go after something, when they want something, like they go after it, they secure it. There's no hesitance. There's a lot of urgency, but it's sometimes like we don't want to lead our own lives, and like we ask questions, which is fine because that's why we're here for you guys and you girls. We sometimes you're looking for permission for someone to tell you it's okay to walk away. Like you don't have to wait and settle and hope for the best, like when you've already experienced like the best of this dating relationship. Because I don't know if people talk about like dating relationships expire. Like you're not supposed to date for years and years and years and years and years. And
dating is a phase that you move through.
Yes.
Whether it's moving to marriage or moving out of that relationship.
Right, exactly. And it's like after a certain time, it's kind of like the same thing with college and high school. Like there's a certain amount of time that is supposed to happen. And you'd be kind of concerned if you saw someone, I've been working on my bachelor's for 8 years. And it's like, okay. That's unusual.
And a man's inaction is revealing his intention. Most times, if the man is not proposing or not showing exactly if he wants to officially make you his girlfriend, like that's showing his intention, or just showing that he doesn't have any intention or direction in his life in general. A lot of times, sometimes it really can just be he needs a nudge and a push. Maybe we can get into that, but most times it's not. So what is waiting too long? Because you kind of asked that in your question.
Yeah.
And there's no one size fits all timeline. Like generally, the younger you are, the longer your process should be. The older you are, the shorter it can be. It doesn't mean that it has to be shorter or longer depending on your age. It's just generally that seems to be how it goes. I would say in general, if we're just going to go straight general framework for anybody, if you're a year and a half in and there hasn't been any clear plan of, hey, here's when I want to get married, that's a major red flag to me. I would not personally want to be in a relationship a year and a half and we've never talked about marriage.
Right. And we should also say too, because some of y'all are probably like, what the heck, a year and a half? We're talking about high quality, intentional relationships. So these are relationships that you're having very intentional conversations often, that you're talking often, that you are learning about each other and you're growing at every single stage. This is not all we do is go out and hang out and party, and I've never met his parents and he's never met mine. I don't know what his plan is for the next 6 months to a year. I don't know what his dreams are. I don't know how he got saved.
You're not really serious about getting married if that's the.
But that's what I'm saying. Right, you're absolutely right. But because there are people who, and we've talked about this before, like the pace often is determined by someone's level of intention and their maturity. So there are people who can date for 6 months and know each other better than people who have dated for 6 years because they're having better quality conversations, they're spending quality time together. There's all these different things that factor into it. Obviously your age, if you're long distance or you live close to each other, just your level of health as a human, as an individual, all those things play into it. But I absolutely agree. After a year and a half, you should have a pretty clear picture of where you guys are going, and if you want to go with that person where they're going, if you're a female, if you want to go where that guy is leading you, like, wow, I really like his life is like really cool, really on fire for the Lord, really aligned with, I can see myself fitting into this really well. I'm really excited about what God is doing in him and through him, and I want to be a part of that. And if that's not how you're feeling, and it seems like he wants me to be a part of it too, if you're not feeling that, it's like you're probably, you definitely need to wake up and then move on.
And it can be shorter than a year and a half. I was just saying that's a red flag. It just depends on, like Pauline said, the quality of your conversations. I feel like within 6 months, you and I were talking about marriage, and we wanted to move down that path with each other, even though it took us a little longer because we were younger, and I was still in college. So time without intention is something I want to talk about, because time without intention in a dating relationship only leads to confusion. So the longer you're in a relationship time without clear conversations, it's just going to lead to confusion, which is ultimately going to lead to you being frustrated, upset, heartbroken, or all three. And the Bible says it like this in Proverbs 13:12. Hope deferred makes the heart sick, but a dream fulfilled is a tree of life. Some of you are wondering why you're so discouraged or annoyed or not happy with where things are in your love life. And if you're in a non-intentional relationship, this could be why. It's because your heart, deep down, you want to be married, but you know that there hasn't been any conversations, and it's just getting pushed off and pushed off and pushed off. Or even if you're watching this and you're single, you may be like, I feel that for myself. Like, I'm not even dating nobody, and I feel like it's deferred. And if that's the case, like, we definitely, like, that can be challenging, no question. And everybody, if we're being honest, is waiting for something. We definitely are waiting on God for some things right now.
Jesus.
And we just have to hold on to Jesus and trust his process in those moments when it gets hard, and trust that his ways are better. But if you're in a relationship with somebody, that's not the case. You're not waiting for God to do something. You're waiting for the person you're with to either do something, or you're waiting for yourself to have to finally make the decision to do something. And that's the cool thing, is you do have control. No matter who you are in a dating relationship, you have the control to end it if it's not what's best, even though I know that's hard. And we'll get into that some more. But just because you've been with somebody for a long time, quote unquote, that doesn't mean that it's been a healthy relationship.
Yeah.
Now, the best part, and babe, I want you to talk about this next point, is communication. The power of honest communication on a relationship. Because if we go back to this question, she said they've been together for 4 years. She wants him to pop the big question this year, but she's not sure he will.
Right.
Somebody could read that and be like, well, have you ever even talked to him about marriage?
Right.
Because we're not going to sit here and assume that, even though he has been dragging his feet, just because he's been dragging it, but we're not going to assume that he's had conversations with you and he's still not trying to move forward. Like, there's a real possibility, because we don't know you, we don't know how these conversations, if they've been had at all, have gone. Does he even know you want to be married?
Right.
He may think you are content and cool with just dating.
Yeah.
And that is a reason why communication is important.
Yeah.
Talk about that.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough because a lot of times, you know, I feel like us women, and myself included, we struggle with this a lot, of like clearly communicating our wants. And we have like these big dreams, like these Disney World wedding plans, and like these beautiful visions and dreams about what we want our lives to look like and feel like. And we kind of just assume when we describe things that we want or we see, that like the guy's gonna get it. So like a lot of times, like, you know, you may or may not be that girl who's like, hey babe, like, oh my gosh, look, like so-and-so from college just got engaged, and like, isn't that so cute? Like, I would love to have something like this one day. I would choose this instead of that though. And then he's just looking at you like, okay, yeah, like, what does that mean to me? And you're thinking like, oh, I'm dropping hints, like I'm letting him know, I'm bringing it up. And like, guys, you have to be very, very clear, like write it out, spell it out, break it down Barney style for them a lot of times, like 99.99999% of the time. So you cannot assume just because you've been talking around it and about it that he knows what you want. And you may feel like, oh, we've been together for 4 years. He should kind of like, what else do you do with somebody? You know, when you've been together for 4 years, there's context clues, right? And you're absolutely right. I think that, you know, that's in a perfect world. Like, that's how everybody thinks. But again, he's not you. He didn't grow up the way that you grew up. He doesn't have all the same knowledge, understanding, worldview that you have. So at the end of the day, there is a communication breakdown. And in the girl world, in my opinion, there's a lot of things that are communicated, but they're not discussed. There's a lot of things that are seen and unseen. And like, girls are more of like the in between the lines, you know, context clues, where guys are very strict. Hey, what's up, bro? Like, and we're good. Like, he didn't cross any lines with me, we're good. Like, there's more of a black and white type of like way of thinking. So you have to make sure that you are clearly saying things, and we'll give you a script in a little bit about like what you can say, because from what you described, it sounds like you guys are not on the same page about engagement, proposal, marriage at all. And like, everyone's story is different, but like, I was not going to be that girl who was, surprised either way by a proposal. I don't want to get proposed to somebody that I don't want to propose to me. And I also don't want to be sitting wondering, like, is this guy ever going to propose to me? Like, I want to know what our plan is. I'm not saying, like, for us, I didn't need to know, even though I thought I knew, like, the exact day we were going to get engaged. But I knew it was happening in, like, the next month or two. And because we had conversations about, like, this is our plan. And, like, I know some women really like the element of surprise. And, like, why I want to be surprised when I'm engaged or when I propose to him. Like, that can still happen. Like, you can be surprised about, like, how he proposes and where he proposes and, like, all the details and, like, things like that without the actual engagement and future marriage. Like, that should not be a surprise.
It doesn't have to kill the romance if that's something you're concerned about.
Right.
Like, I want it to be romantic. And let's just be honest, like, it's comforting to be with the same person.
Yeah.
Like, it's comforting to know that the person you're with knows all your quirks, they know all your hang-ups. They know all the small talk facts about you, like what's your favorite color, what you like to eat.
Easy.
Yeah, it's definitely easy, and you don't want to have a hard conversation and then it doesn't go well, and now you got to restart and you're back on the market. So first, just be honest with yourself. Like, are you willing to go through that if necessary?
Yeah.
And if you're not, then you got to talk to yourself, like, why not? And then really just be honest and seek the Lord and spend time with him talking about that. Now, you mentioned some language, and we'll get more even after this, but some sample language just to kind of get you thinking in the right track when you're going to your man, if you're in this situation and you want to talk to him about it. Because maybe you're sitting here and you're like, yo, I never have had an honest conversation or real conversation with my man. I've always kind of just talked around it.
Right.
This could be the first way you really address it. And don't do it while he's watching the game or while you all are on a date that's fun and you're go-karting and you're like, hey, by the way, like, no, like, let it be a time where you guys are sitting down, maybe at a table, you're waiting for your food to come, or maybe you can say, like, hey, I want to have a conversation about something. Can we talk real quick? Like, don't just blindside them, especially when it's not the right moment. Timing is everything. But here's what you can say. I love you. Hey, babe, I love you. But not having clarity on if you plan to marry me soon makes me feel blank. Mm-hmm. I need to know that marriage is a priority, not just eventually, but soon. Mm-hmm. Now, the blank could be scared, tired, hurt, sad, whatever the blank is for you, whatever the lack of proposal or lack of clarity on what his intentions are, whatever that makes you feel, that's what you want to put there. And the reason why you want to express what you feel is because you want to make sure that you're not coming across like you're attacking him. Like, oh, you are less of a man because you haven't proposed yet.
Like, what's wrong with you? Why haven't you proposed?
Yeah, you want to just let him know, hey, this is how this is making me feel. Because hopefully, if you're with a man who really cares for you, who really wants to serve you, a man who hears your heart and hears you open up to him in that way, it should cause him to change something that he can control.
Yeah.
There's things that Pauline tells me now that I don't necessarily have control over, and we have to seek the Lord and trust him to make those things happen. But if there's something that I can do in my control to change, and she's expressing her heart of something that's really important to her, and I just blow you off, like, I'm sure you wouldn't feel good about that.
Right, exactly.
You wouldn't feel safe either.
Right.
And safety is a big thing in a relationship. Now, maybe you heard that script and you're like, well, I don't even want to say that because if I'm being honest with myself, I've never brought this up in a real way. Then you can just apologize up front, really, and just be like, hey, babe, like, I want to apologize to you that I've never made my intentions clear, that I want to date and prepare in a way that leads to marriage. And then you can go into that script and you can kind of take accountability if you need to up front. And that can help also kind of lower the man's guards a little bit and not have him come in hot. Now, that being said, there are some signs that you want to look out for that are not good. Like if you're having this conversation and you're trying to be healthy and you're trying to say the right things and you notice that the person or your man is deflecting or starting to have avoidance, that's not a good sign. Here's a couple signs that you can look for. But first, let me define deflection. I don't want to assume everybody knows what that means. So deflection in a relationship is when one partner shifts focus away from their own actions or their words to avoid taking responsibility. Yeah. Now, can you read? These are some examples that Pauline's going to read of what deflection can look like practically in a relationship.
Changing the subject, blaming you for their feelings, avoiding the issue altogether, which I guess could, again, be changing the subject, acting defensive or minimizing your feelings, downplaying them, dismissing it. Those are things that you don't want, that are kind of a sign to you that, like, this isn't a safe place for me to be me and share what I want.
Yeah, so changing the subject, that's pretty straightforward, but blaming you for their feelings is like, I can't believe that you're upset because I haven't proposed. You know, I'm trying to get myself together. It's like, whoa.
Yeah.
Like, that's, no. Or like acting defensive, which is kind of the same thing there of like, what you mean? Like, I'm not handling my business as a man? You think I ain't doing what I need to do? Yada, yada. And it's like, all right, that's not, I didn't say anything about that.
Right. And that's why, like, back to the power of, honest communications, you really want to make it about you and say, like, this is how I feel. This is what I want. I have not done a good job of clearly communicating this to you over the past 4 years. I maybe, bless you, when you guys first started dating, maybe you didn't feel the way about Jesus or about marriage or about relationships as you do now. And this is a way for you to kind of like catch him up and say, hey, I've been actually watched this podcast and I asked them this question and this is what they had to say and this is, what I'm thinking about it. This is what I feel like God has been speaking to me about and what, the direction that I want to take my life. Like, what do you think about that? Do you have any thoughts on, intentional dating and marrying? So, we have been together for 4 years and like, we just kind of throwing the idea out to him and seeing how he responds. Like, again, you cannot, whenever you introduce a topic to somebody for the first time, you cannot drop a hammer and expect them to not get hurt in a way where they're like, oh, wow, this is a lot. Like, especially if it is truly your first time bringing it up, you do want to be gracious and say, like, hey, this is what I've been thinking. And, like, I don't want to put any pressure on you, but I would love to hear what you have to say about it. Like, we can check in a couple of days or whatever it is.
Yeah, giving them time to process the information is definitely healthy as long as there's a follow-up date, like you said, like, hey, let's revisit this on Friday.
Right.
Don't go more than a week and you guys haven't brought it back up.
Right, definitely. So he can say, yeah, because if he's depending on how if he's an internal processor, he might need time, by himself to process it. Hopefully he's praying about it and talking to the Lord about it, because he might be saying, like, hey, I've actually been trying to find a way to talk to you about this, because you have to remember too, with this script and this kind of communication that we're talking to you about, the goal is not for you to get what you want. The goal is not for you to get a ring or for you to get proposed to or for you to even break up. That's not really what the goal is. The goal is just for you to get clarity. The goal is for you and him to have a very productive conversation or a series of conversations, if we're being honest. And you can walk away from those series of conversations feeling so confident, feeling so like, hey, I know that he knows where I stand and I know where he stands, and we have a very mutual understanding. So, like, regardless of what direction you all move in next, whether it's together or if it's separate, like, you can feel so good about it. Like, hey, if you break up, you're like, you know what, those were, amazing 4 years, and I'm so grateful for him, but, like, we honestly just wanted different things in life, and we had a different kind of idea of, like, timelines and things like that, and I just saw that not working out well, like, going into a marriage. I didn't want to force anybody to marry me, and I'm okay with that, and, like, I'm so peaceful about that. Am I sad? Yes. But I feel peaceful about, moving forward, or the same way where it's like, hey, we both, just realized that, like, we want the same thing, but we just didn't know how to communicate about it. And now we're working on that and moving forward, towards marriage. But again, the goal is not the result. The goal is clarity.
Yeah. Now, I have 5 questions that you can ask your partner to get a gauge on if and why they have or have not proposed yet, or have not planned to propose. The first thing that you can ask and you want to make sure that your tone is right. Like, tone matters. So you want to make sure that you're not asking in an accusatory manner, but you're asking in an exploratory manner.
Very curious. Be curious,
And remember, love isn't afraid of the truth. It embraces it. So they shouldn't be afraid to just be honest with you. They should just embrace it, even if it's hard. They may not want to, but they need to show that they're willing to be honest. And you need to show that you're willing to ask really hard questions to get the truth. So the first question you can ask is, I'd love to understand, do you feel like there's anything you're still processing or needing before you feel ready to take that next step with me? Now, obviously, you could ask this question more directly and say, what's holding you back from proposing?
Yeah.
But that's probably a little too direct to get a healthy response from a man.
Feel attacked.
The second question you can ask is, when you think about the future, like next year or so, do you see marriage as something that feels realistic and exciting for us? Now, again, you could just say, do you see us getting married in the next year? But again, I hope you're seeing the dichotomy of a softer question versus a more direct approach. Because, again, the goal is to get your man to open up and feel safe with you.
Yeah.
Because when a man feels safe, that's not a phrase that you really hear a lot with men. It's like, does a man feel safe? But that is actually really important when you're talking to a man about any topic, is making sure you're communicating with them in a way that they can always hear respect first. Like, do they hear that you respect them first? Then they can respond well.
Yeah, and just to kind of like insert some girl language here, because like you may feel like, oh, of course I respect him, because like respect to women and men is so different, and like you really got to make sure you're not talking to him like he's a child, like he's a little boy, and like pretty much you want to talk to him like a friend. Like, you wouldn't come up to your friend unless you guys were fighting and say like, what's wrong with you? Do you think you're gonna be my friend in a year? It'd be more like, hey girl, I noticed this and this, and I was just wondering, like, is there something that I did, or is there something that's going on with you that I can help, or like, what do you think about this and that? It's way more of a softer, kind of like gentle approach, because we just look at women in a more gentler way. And sometimes as women, we're thinking like, oh, we were trained to think men are masculine and strong and leaders, and they are all those things. But at the same time, he's with you. He's not out in the world right now. He's not at work. He wants to feel safe and respected and like kind of let his guard down with you. So just, that's something that's helped me so much as a wife, is realizing like, okay, yes, but the way that I respect Tim is different than I thought it was going to be, and I think that it may help you if this kind of like tone is like something you're like really confused by. Yeah, and just to kind of even emphasize the tone importance a little bit more, Proverbs 15:1 says this: a gentle answer deflects anger, but harsh words make tempers flare. That's just for free for anybody. Remember that when you're in a relationship, it can be platonic, it can be romantic. Like, when you come in hot, tempers are going to flare. But when you come in soft, it helps the tone and it helps the atmosphere kind of calm down a little bit if it's a heavy topic. So the next question you could ask is, do you feel like you're in a place when where you're ready to lead in a marriage? Not perfectly, but with God at the center. And maybe this isn't a great question if you don't feel like you all are strong in your friendship. Like, if you have a really healthy friendship with your partner, this may be a question that they can receive well and not feel offended. Because maybe you guys have some conversations kind of tough like this already. Like, hey, like, do you feel like you're ready to take that next step at work? Like, if they've been talking to you about work and how that's going. Like, if you already are used to having those conversations, this can be a really, really good question to help you understand this person's heart. The next thing is, do you feel like marriage is something you're actively working toward with me? Or does the dating situation that we're in right now just feel like something we're comfortable in? Yeah. And this is really getting to see, like, again, let them talk. Like, just hear. The Bible says, out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. Yeah. So the more you can get somebody to talk, the more you can actually learn what they really feel. The last question is, how important is it to you that we're building toward a future together, intentionally
and not just coasting. So it's not just vibes, but we're out here trying to build a kingdom marriage, hopefully, together. Is that something you see for us? Like, that's important.
Yeah, and I think, like, the hardest thing as I'm listening to these as a woman...
Yeah, help bring the woman perspective.
It's like, this all sounds like, I could see you sitting here and saying, like, okay, this sounds really good, Tim Pauline. Like, I would love to ask my boyfriend these questions, but is it going to get me the answers and the clarity and get him to say what I want him to say? And I want to be honest with you, because we love you and we keep it fun, we keep it holy here, we keep it direct as much as possible. And the truth is, these questions are not going to get you the answer that you want, in the sense of, if you're looking for him to tell you, listen, I'm not going to marry you. I'm not going to marry you this year. I'm not going to marry you in 6 months. I'm not going to marry. I have no plans of marrying you in the near future or soon. Let's say it's 6 months to a year soon. Let's what we're going to say as soon as. I'm not going to marry you in that time frame. But I do love being with you. I do love what we've done the past 4 years. And I'm open to seeing what more we could do in the future. But I have no plans. And I am not secretly making plans, because I know you're sitting there wondering, hoping that he has, like, a ring in his pocket every time you guys go out to dinner. He's not going to tell you that as a result of these questions. The best thing that's going to happen is that you're going to learn a little bit more about him. And then you're going to have to make the decision with the Holy Spirit, with your community. Is this the type of person that I want to be with for the rest of my life, given where he is right now? Yes, also coupled with everything that I've seen over the past 4 years. But more than that, the answers to these questions that I'm getting, is this giving husband? Is this giving future father of my children? Is this giving, I'm excited about this man to lead me for the rest of my life as we both follow Christ together? And the good thing is that you get to make the decision. The hard thing and the bad thing is that you get to make this decision. Because a lot of times as women, we're designed to be helpers. We're designed, yes, we are leaders in our own right. But a lot of times in this decision, in these kind of instances, we want to be led. We want to be told what to do. And if you're in this situation, the chances are that's not going to happen if it's already been 4 years of this. And that's just me as, like, girl to girl, being, if we were sitting, if you were sitting right here at our kitchen table and we're having coffee together, like, that's what I would want to tell you. And probably wouldn't tell you that directly, but I would want you to know that. I'd want you to walk away knowing that, like, I have to make this decision for myself. And it's so funny because us as women, a lot of times, in 2025, we don't want to be told what to do. We want to make our own decisions when it comes to our career, to our health, to our money, to our, our friends and things like that. And a lot of times, who we get to date and who we not get to date, we want to have options. We want to have multiple offers. When we get into multiple grad schools and all these different things. I am that girl too. But a lot of times, this is a decision that we have to make, because at the end of the day, who you marry is one of the most important decisions you'll ever make. It's second to following Christ, and it's not one that you want to make lightly. It's definitely not one that you want to just kind of stumble into, where, like, oh, well, he asked me, so I said yes, and I wasn't dating anybody else. Nobody else has asked me, and the dating pool's not looking good, the ratio's not looking good, so I guess I'll just say yes. Like, you want it to be an intentional, a weighty, a heavy, this is the man that God has for me. And I know it because I've seen all the evidence of this is who I am supposed to be with, who I want to be with. So I say all that to say, if you're thinking, like, these questions sound a little bit too, like, fluff McGuff, I'm not going to do it. It's not helping me. You guys are supposed to tell me, yes, he's going to propose. No, he's not. We don't know that because we don't know him and we don't know you. And even if we did, at the end of the day, people do what they want to do. Only he can tell you that. And chances are, if he hasn't come out and been forthright and been kind of telling me, like, I didn't have to beg Tim, when are you going to marry me? When are you going to marry me? When are you going to marry me? Like, he wanted to do it on his own. Like, obviously I, had my own desires, my own, things that I wanted to see and things like that. But if he hasn't shown it to you and made it clear to you at this point, I don't think he's going to make anything else more clear. And I think the best clarity you're going to get is the answer to these questions, but it's not going to answer your ultimate question of, are you going to marry me?
Yeah, well said. Now, if you have these conversations, and like Pauline said, you may not get what you want to hear, but you're going to get what you need to see.
Come on.
And
bars.
It is important that you learn to have hard conversations in relationships.
So good.
Like, me and Pauline have conversations all the time I don't want to have. A lot. I don't want to talk about it. But you have to if you want to have a healthy relationship. So, if you have this conversation and you see that your man is not moving really forward, and he's not moving forward towards marriage, here's what you can do. Because remember, you have the control.
Yeah.
You have the ability to make the decision here. You want to pay attention to his actions, not just his words. Because even if he says, like, yeah, I'm going to marry you, I'm planning to do it within the next 6 months to a year. Okay, he says that, but like, what actions has he actually taken? Like, have you all actually seriously started talking about what rings you like? Have you all started talking about what size of a wedding you would want to have? Like, what evidence have you seen that is different from the normal flow of your relationship that you've had for the past 4 years?
Right.
The next thing is, if he's not ready with a clear plan, I'm struggling. If he's not ready with a clear plan, it's okay to leave. Like, it's okay. It's okay.
It's okay.
I'm not saying it's easy.
Yes.
Like, we're not sitting here lying to you.
Right, but it's okay.
Like, it's okay. You're gonna be okay. You have to trust that God has your back.
Yes, for the joy set before Him.
Especially if you're taking a step of faith. Like, you're taking a step of faith to leave the relationship because you do believe the Lord has better for you.
Yeah.
Because what you're seeing is not God's best. Like, it's okay. You can do it. You're not pressuring him. If you're asking these questions, you're not pressuring him. You're pursuing purpose. You're trying to make sure that you're in a relationship that is not wasting your time. You're in a relationship that the Lord can honor.
Yeah.
Because the Lord honors marriages.
Mm-hmm.
We don't believe that the Lord dislikes dating, per se. But I don't think the Lord wants people dating multiple years without any clear plan of marriage, because marriage is where He wants to establish the covenant. Marriage is what the Bible says is a representation of how Christ loved the church, not dating. So we just want to be mindful that we're not just in this limbo. You know, remember that the enemy is the author of confusion. So we want to be in a place where there is no confusion. It's clarity. Me and Pauline, you know what it is. When you see the finger, like, you know we're married. There's no ambiguity.
Ambiguity?
Girl, I am under the weather, all right? That's why I'm not talking about. Yeah,
I got you.
Whatever. I'm not even going to try to say it again.
Ambiguity.
I promise I'm educated. So, the last thing is, don't fear losing someone who isn't willing to step up. And we talked about in the beginning, not fearing, well, I don't want to get back in the dating pool. Yeah. Or not fearing what your family's going to say. I told you so, girl. I knew he wasn't no good. Like, who cares what you're going to hear, what you're going to think? What matters is you moving forward with clarity. Like, there's going to be so much peace that you have. Yeah. Maybe not the next day, because you might be sad.
You're going to be sad for sure.
Maybe not the next week. But guess what? 2 weeks, a month. By fall, you're going to be like, I'm so glad I made that decision. It was hard.
Yeah, stick with it too if you're gonna make that decision.
Yes, don't double dip.
Because what you don't want to do is like make an ultimatum either, where you're like, all right, I asked you these questions, you're not giving me the answers I want to give. Well, you have until X number of date to propose, or I'm out of here, because that's manipulative. And who wants to force somebody down the aisle? Because then you have to force the marriage too, and like, that's just never good. You know, it needs to be, because then you're leading the relationship as well, and that's also disjointed and out of alignment. So please don't do ultimatum. You can definitely have boundaries where it's like, hey, this is what I need, and this is what I need to see, and this is the type of person I want to marry. Either you're that type of person or you're not. And I mean, you're not saying that because that's very harsh, but that's more of like how you're thinking. But yeah, definitely don't do ultimatum if you're thinking about it. Don't do it, please.
You are worth clarity.
Yes.
Not confusion. The right man will rise to meet your honesty. He won't run from it. Remember those two things. You're worth clarity.
Yes.
The man will rise to meet your honesty.
And remember too, one of the best quotes we've ever heard is, to be unclear is to be unkind. So even on your end, if you are not being clear about what you want and why, you're not being kind to him. But also, if he's not being clear to you in his responses and his intentions, he's not being kind to you. And that's not the type of relationship you want to be in.
Yeah. So if this video was valuable to you, make sure you like and subscribe to the page. And if you've been in a situation where maybe in the past, even if you're married now to somebody else, if in the past you had a relationship that you knew you had to end and you just didn't do it, or it took you a while, but you're so glad you did in the long run, can you put that in the comments, put that in the chat? Like, let's encourage our brothers and sisters who need to make this decision. Let them see that it's possible to have joy on the other side.
I love that.
And we'll see y'all next week on the W Podcast. Thanks for watching this video.
To get more Christian relationship advice, subscribe to our channel.
And make sure you check out our other videos as well.